Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. I don't have the right background. Let me fix that. There we go. HR Collaborative. So we're in the afternoon session. My name is David Noe. I'm the host of Speakeasy HR, and we are live at the HR Collaborative with a lot of our guest speakers that came here and did a breakout session. The earlier session this morning, I talked to Scott McGowan, several others, our keynote, Andre, which was great. So if you didn't see that live, go back and listen to that on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or on LinkedIn or YouTube. You can find it, or go to speakeasyhr.com. So I'm doing 15-minute increment interviews for people that aren't at the event here live, or that came to the event because we have guest breakout sessions, 4 different breakout sessions, and everyone can't go to every session. So my upcoming guest here with me is Kim Dubé with Reflex Recruiting.
Yes.
Thanks for
Hi.
coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. I know we've talked a few times and we're involved in different HR community functions. So
Yeah.
it's great to actually sit down and talk to you and hear what you brought today as your topic.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that a little bit, but what do you think of the event so far?
Oh, I think it's great, but I have a question for you. Did
Yes.
Andre's shoulders fit in the screen when he
You
sat
know,
down this morning?
It's a very good question. And we are set up in a way that is a little bit confined in a corner that they put us in, which is fine. But yes, Andre is a much larger, muscular individual. So yes, it was a little different, but we made it work because that's what we do. We make it work, we adjust, and we do this live. So it's fun. But yeah, he was a great guest. He was right on time, and luckily we found him. And obviously we were doing it live, and you have a list and an agenda and a schedule.
Yep.
It's a little bit more challenging than just doing it and recording it. So we'll get into your topic a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, this is really, like I said, for us to like hear about your background. And you know, obviously recruiting is always a hot topic. It seems like people are always looking for new jobs and looking for new opportunities. So since this is your first time on Speakeasy HR, or anybody that's a recurring guest, we get to play a game that's called the Envelope Icebreaker game.
Okay, no pressure.
You get to pick 1 through 15.
Okay.
And it's just a way for us to learn more about you. And it is your chance to pick a number 1 through 15, Kim. So
Okay.
What do you want to pick?
I'll go number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah.
All right. Pull that out.
Okay.
What do you got in there as a question? I'll make sure she actually says the right question.
What was your first job that earned you a paycheck with taxes deducted? Okay, so I was 14.
Okay.
And my first job was working at McDonald's on the weekends.
Yeah.
And fun fact, I had the best manager I've ever had in my entire life at that job. His name was John Freely.
Okay.
And that's what I did. And I was there for like 3 years working on the weekends, saving up money to buy my first car.
There you go. So kids that are in their teenage years getting a car, McDonald's is a good place to go work. Skyline, all the other restaurants. I feel like everyone has to work in the restaurant industry, right?
I totally agree.
I feel like it's a necessity. And I know it's not a requirement, but I've done the you know, country clubs and restaurants, and I had a paper route because, you know, I'm older than probably a lot of people here. But you know, it's all good experience.
It's so good.
You know, as you recruit and have to be involved in recruiting, you get to see like what people and how they, you know, how their interview skills are. And it's funny because people that are in HR you would think are really good interviewers, but I interview people and they're not very good.
It's hard to be on that side of the table when you're not used to it. So.
It is very hard. So for those that don't know you, Kim, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into this kind of work.
Yeah. So I've been in recruiting for 20 years, which gets a little harder to say every year because I realize I'm getting older.
Yeah.
But I've been an in-house recruiter up until about 2 years ago when I, as Jody Brandstetter said, came over to the dark side and started my own firm. But I think I'm that special kind of crazy. I'm that career recruiter. I absolutely love it. I think we change lives in recruiting, not just for our candidates, but our managers too, right? That when you find that right teammate for them, it can be life changing.
Yeah.
So that's what's kept me in this for so long. But I've worked with teams all over the world. In the last 10 years have really led TA transformation. So utilizing digital technology, upskilling recruiters, things like that. So the last decade has really been focused on that.
Yeah. And it's ever changing. I feel like, you know, the way that people recruit, TA, talent acquisition, right? Like, you know, it's kind of like you're in sales, but you're not.
Right.
But you are, like, you really are. Like, you are selling a company and a job opportunity potentially to somebody that's not working there. So when I tell people I'm not in sales, I recruit for our company, and I am in sales. I'm here at a conference. You know, we have a booth for payroll partners. I'm doing this podcast, so I am in sales, even though like I'm not a full-time person in sales. So so what got you into this kind of work when you started it?
Oh, I fell into it completely by accident.
Yeah.
So my first job out of college, I was a speech communication major, and I got a job in marketing to different businesses, so to HR professionals. And I didn't even know what HR was. So that's when I started talking to people, and got my first job working for Adecco in a staffing agency. So I spent 1 year in marketing and transitioned to that and just fell in love with it. So that's kind of how I fell into it, and I just never left.
Yeah, it's funny. I've asked people that have been in HR, like, how did you get into it? And I mentioned it on the earlier morning session, but one of my previous guests, I was like, what got you into HR? And she's like, when I was 7, I would, instead of play with dolls and stuff, I would act like I'm in HR. And I'm like, you're 7? She's like, yeah, my mom, you know, she was telling me about her family, like that's what they did. So she knew that, like, she would fire people and, like, you know, hire people. And she was like acting like she was in an HR job when she was 7. I was like, no one's told me that. You know, they're like, oh, I fell into it, or I worked at a company and they didn't have anybody in HR, so they just asked me if I wanted to do our benefits and our recruiting and, you know, like, help fire people. And it's just one of those things that you do fall into.
Yeah.
But a lot of people find their niche, recruiting, benefits, you know, and so it's a lot of opportunities. So obviously something like this, an HR collaborative event that's been going on for 20 years, brings a lot of people, you know, together locally. So we're in the greater Cincinnati area. Some of our speakers have traveled from Philadelphia and Milwaukee. So it's been an awesome experience live, you know, to see this kind of conference. So knowing that we don't have a ton of time, you can't go through all of your breakout session, but for those that weren't in it, that were here, or that people aren't here and you know, want to hear about your topic. So it was cultivating a recruiting culture of agility, adapting recruitment to changing workforce needs. So tell us a little bit about what you talked about in that.
Yeah. So it's just really important to keep your pulse on the changing workforce needs, right? And when you look at it specifically the last 25 years, there's been so many defining changes in recruiting. So everything from the introduction of job boards to applicant tracking systems to COVID. And so that agility, I would argue, that ability to pivot and to tailor your recruiting process to different workforce needs, and in some cases upcoming generational preferences, can be a huge competitive advantage for companies. So I am not the brightest crayon in the box, so I like to keep things simple. So we really looked at it from a framework of people, process, and performance. So what are those changes from a people standpoint, from a process standpoint, and then how do you measure those to really define success? So we talked about everything in terms of those lenses, and then really spent a significant, or some, I guess, the end of the portion of the session on changing workforce needs that may not be evident to people. So one call out that really resonated with folks was looking at global population trends, right? How many of us really stop and take the time to do that? And so one thing I talked to them about was by 2035, Africa, specifically sub-Saharan Africa, is going to be more populated than the population of China or India. So how many times in HR have you heard people talk about China and India over the last 20 years? But it is also going to be our youngest continent. So their population is going to significantly increase, but they are going to be our youngest continent. So as you look at some more established cultures, right, or some more traditional, I guess, first generation, or first world countries,
Yeah.
their populations are declining. Whereas when we look at something like that exploding. So if I'm in manufacturing or any type of field like that, that's something I want to be in the know about. So we covered some of that information as well.
That's awesome. And I've heard a stat from a local AI expert. She's Kendra Ramirez.
Yeah.
She's great and really has been focused on studying AI for years. And she brings up a stat. She says that 85% of jobs that'll be available in 2030 haven't even been created yet. So I look at that as, okay, people that are involved in recruiting and hiring, you have people retiring and you have the workforce coming in that are coming out of school, the young professionals, and it's like, oh my gosh, like what a time to be in HR and recruiting and just helping people find the right fit, on the applicant side and the employer side. So a lot of great opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years, in your market and in your industry. So tell us a bit about your company and where can we find out more information about it?
Yeah, so we're Reflex recruiting flexibility for a reason, right? So flexibility. And I had the idea for the company 8 years ago.
Awesome.
And it took me a long time to finally hunker down and do it. But we specialize in non-executive recruiting.
Okay.
And we offer flexible pricing arrangements. So our pricing is not contingent on what somebody earns once they're hired. So we really aim to be a lever that companies can pull when they need it, without necessarily a bunch of stipulations around minimum spend and all that. So reflexrecruiting.com, or folks can connect with me on LinkedIn. But we specialize in non-executive recruiting for companies, and really having those flexible models to adapt to ever-changing workforce, but also employer needs.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I do have Kim tagged on the live. So if you are on LinkedIn and you have not connected with her, you can find her profile in there. So thanks for coming by.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing all the work to broadcast live today.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Seeing the people and getting to just kind of interact with the folks that are here. We have about 220, I think. And it's storming outside. It's been a nasty day of weather. Obviously, it's April, so we're inside, but we're going to have a really good time. There's a happy hour after, and so hopefully people hang out and get to network and connect. I love the human connection when you go to events and you're not in front of a computer. Well, I am, but in a different sense because we're broadcasting live. So
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your day. And
you too.
I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you, Kim. All right. I'm going to All right, we're just rolling into the next guest speaker with me. If you are watching live, just if you can comment that you can hear us. I'm pretty sure it worked the first time in the morning session, but no one has told me yet that it works this afternoon, but we are mic'd up and I think we're good to go. So this event, like I said before, there's breakout sessions in the morning and afternoon. And so people that are attending live here, there's about 220 people. They can't get to every breakout session. So for people that are watching live, you get to hear from the guest speakers and their breakout topics and what they talked about and kind of hear, what they brought to the event. Or if you went to a different breakout session and you didn't get a chance to see the others, this is a chance for you to hear what they talked about.
I'll be checking in.
So the next one I have is Christy Deering.
Hi.
Good to have you
Great
on
to see you,
Speakeasy HR. Yeah. So I love your topic. You're with Everspark.
Yes.
And you are a Michigan grad.
Yes, I am.
So go blue.
Go blue. Go blue.
Grew up in Michigan, so I love that. And you're a
Nice.
Xavier grad.
Yes, absolutely.
I went to Xavier, so I grew up in Michigan and moved down here to go
Well,
to
we
Xavier.
got so much in common.
So yeah, we have a
Okay.
lot to talk about.
Excellent.
So what is this your first time here?
I was an attendee the last 2 years. My first time
Attendee the last
being
2
a
years?
breakout speaker.
Okay. What did you think of it? Did you go already, or was it?
I did.
Oh yeah, you were this morning.
It was a great session. It was
Yeah.
good, full house. A lot
Yeah.
of people there interested in the word disruptive, and
Yes.
I said, hey, like, so you signed up for this, so let's just make sure that we're gonna shake the trees a little bit. We're gonna get a little provocative, and they were all for it. So I kind of set the stage.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like there's a lot happening in HR, and so I was excited to bring the topic.
Yeah. No, we'll dive into it a little bit. Everybody that comes on, just like every normal guest, when I do these on Mondays on LinkedIn and YouTube, they get to play an awesome icebreaker game called the Envelope Icebreaker. So I'm
Love
going to
icebreakers.
play the little video here, and you get to pick a number. Did it play? I guess it played. I don't know. Maybe. This is what you get when it's a one-man show here. So 1 through 15.
Okay.
Whatever number you want, you just take or take out.
My son is 7 years old, so we're gonna go
Okay.
with number 7.
Number 7. This is just to get to know the guest a little bit.
Perfect.
And I do this every time. Oh, when you were in grade school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Doing
Gee.
HR, right?
Doing HR, that was what it was. No, nobody
No?
knows about HR when you're in grade school. I was always kind of a math science kid.
Okay.
And I didn't know much about engineers, but I was like, I like to solve problems.
Okay.
I love
yeah.
puzzles.
Yeah.
I loved art too, so it was going to be something in the business world, I guess. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't dream about being a doctor or being like a nurse or a teacher or anything. It was,
Yeah.
But to solve problems and help people, I think that's kind of the root of it. If I were to go back and analyze it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't, decide to be in HR like when they're young. I was telling Kim, there was a guest on my podcast, and she was like 7, and she played, instead of playing with dolls, like she talked about being in HR, and like her family was in HR. So there are people like that know what HR is very young.
That's great. That's great.
So you've had a career with P&G.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked there for 20 years, and now you're doing stuff with Everspark. So tell us about Everspark.
Yeah, so it's a boutique consultancy that is helping companies traverse the change in HR from systems, processes, and people-centered strategies and solutions.
Awesome.
I had 11 years in IT and 10 years in HR in a large company. And so taking some of those lessons learned and distilling it down to the essence of kind of what makes it work, why is it important to the business, and then bringing that to life in a customized way for my clients.
Yeah.
So it's to call it HR consulting.
Yeah.
When I talk to people, they're like, oh, you do employee handbooks and recruiting, and I say, not quite. Right. But it's a partnership to that. It's the means to the end. It's the people operations side of how do we help people at work. So that's just a bit of my experience, but always been rooted in my passion.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to be able to do this for my clients.
Yeah. And it's a lot about, what we do at Payroll Partners. It's technology that we customize for a business, because business A, business B, business C, they all have different challenges, issues, things that they need to work on and improve and be more efficient. Same with HR. Like if you have internal HR, that's fine. But when you have a consultant that can really help identify the ways to be more customized and just really help the company overall, really get them to a better place. So a lot of your clients, are they smaller businesses that don't have internal HR? Is it a mix of different businesses? Like what kind of businesses are you currently working with?
It really is a mix. I mean, I'm fortunate to have P&G have called me back and said, hey, can you come do some organizational sensing and some analysis? So intact teams of about 200, up to 1,000, but really where they have an HR team and they're looking to improve the systems and processes to go to the next level, to help them scale, or to drive efficiencies of what they're spending money on today.
Okay.
I did have a chance to help a company come off PEO and come into their own payroll system, and then build their HR team for the first time. So, the skills and knowledge I have kind of navigates that space as well, but mostly it's kind of usually intact teams.
Yeah, I see when ownership changes and maybe it's a generational kind of family business, things constantly change. And, just because right now someone doesn't maybe need your services in 6 months, something changes.
Sure.
So things are always changing. So what were some of the things that you brought up in your breakout that you felt like, people really took away as things that they're going to think about and try to bring back into their world?
So there was an article on Fortune magazine in February this year that was shared with me by a colleague, and it really stood out. That was the impetus for my presentation, which is Josh Bersin is a thought leader in HR, and so it was an article about him. Anyway, it was 10% of companies are filling, according to the study, are filling their HR positions with non-HR people. Their CHRO position with non-HR people.
Interesting.
And so 10% of companies under the study, right? And there was about 1,000 different companies that were studied. It was one data point. And the other was that HR professionals are 40% less likely to fulfill the C-suite positions than their counterparts. Call it marketing, sales, IT, et cetera. And so reading that stat, I read that to say, no other function has those kinds of stats. I mean, 40% more likely or less likely to move to the C-suite than others. And for me, that's a sign that the transformation and innovation in the HR space has not kept up with the times, and that the business world is moving on ahead. And the more that HR is perhaps doing the same performance management review process from 1990, nothing wrong with it, right? But the more that we continue to do the same stuff we've always done, the more we're going to be behind. And so my call to action was, it's time to get disruptive. And maybe you've all heard this before, but if either disrupt yourself or be disrupted. And I really think as a call to action for HR anywhere, and whatever level of the organization you're in and whatever size company, is you have to start today, like now or tomorrow morning at 8. Like really think about, what is it you're going to do different? How do you think about the work you're doing? And not just be in a routine rhythm of, we just always do the annual survey. We just always do benefits this way. It's time to start thinking differently about it. And there's examples around from other functions, IT, marketing, or so on, where they have gone through a similar transformation. And so there's a lot we can learn from others and from each other, because some people are doing some really good things too.
What advice would you give if somebody is in an HR role and they're trying to get everybody on board from a leadership perspective and ownership perspective in their ideas and their strategies? They think it's a good idea, but they're trying to get buy-in from everybody, but they're not. What advice would you give somebody in that kind of situation?
So coming from a large company, the ability to identify an opportunity and gain buy-in was always a key skill that we had to have. And what I've learned is that you got to start where the energy is, and you got to start where there's a business opportunity. And so where are you spending excessively? Where are you about to make a decision that maybe you don't need to make a decision? So to prevent spending, whatever the business case is, to start there and then to go where the energy is and make small incremental moves. And even if you're thinking about AI, for example, which is a huge disruptor right now, the strategies that I've been following on with thought leaders and so on is it's not even, it's yes, you need an AI policy, but you need to start somewhere, but it's not everybody get ChatGPT and voila, we're done. And yet that is a starting point, but really it's more so about identifying those use cases and micro implementations of AI in meaningful ways in multiple parts of the business. You're going to work for, the ones that are more transactional, maybe customer facing, maybe financial transactions, things that are really going to make a difference for the business. But for HR, it is also up to us to find those incremental wins, and then you sell the heck out of those. You go tell people, hey, we saved 50,000, we saved 100,000, $500,000 in this space by doing this. And those are things that can start gaining traction, gaining buy-in, and then maybe even build your strategy. So maybe have like a North Star for your strategy, but you don't know the details of it, and that's okay. You can kind of do agile strategy development and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Have there been industries that you've seen success in recently in the last couple of years over others?
In just transformation or AI in particular, or
industries that are asking for your services mainly? Have there been any specific industries that you have really found a niche, or has it been?
So I work with all industries,
Okay.
and like I said, different size companies depending on the intact team is looking for that help.
Yeah.
And I find it's, as much as I'm going to profess the dramatic changes that are upon us, right, and happening in different spaces, definitely in the fintech sector, definitely in startups and IT, because there's a natural culture there already, but also there's capability and skills and people that are already kind of privy to what's possible, so they're going to go and implement. I mean, those are definitely kind of forward-looking companies. And some of our, companies here in Cincinnati, or even, wherever it is in whatever industry you're in, sometimes you're still like, I just need to set up an integration so that I don't have to key in my benefit changes to my provider. Like, there's still a lot of antiquated stuff that still are on our plates. And so some of the clients that I work with are more like, how do we just streamline what we have? And that is still very important work. And yet it says to me, that's even more behind in terms of what's being called, right, to what's trending and what other companies are doing. And so even more reason why I'm like, we just can't wait anymore. Like, you can't wait for the budget. Like, you got to build the business case. You got to go and ask for it. You got to start those incremental wins, build those use cases. The time is now, and every day or every year that passes, it's, just growing in terms of the abundance of things that are happening. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fascinating time to be in recruiting and HR. I feel like the next 5 to 10 years, I mean, we're gonna see a lot of evolving workplace environments, and companies just really have a chance right now to be ready and prepared and proactive versus reactive in trying to stay up and competitive with their industry. So this has been awesome. Hopefully you had a good time.
I did. It's been a great time.
Good. Hopefully you have a good rest of your day and enjoy the happy hour. But we definitely have a few more coming on after you. So I appreciate your time.
Great.
And good luck with everything.
May I leave kind of one final way to contact me or anything there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great. So just as much as we're professing kind of this, there's a tsunami coming and HR, let's start activating. I want to invite people to do that in community. And so I'm starting off a next level HR community where we can come together, share our stories, share examples, playbooks, use cases, et cetera, and even have kind of a physical presence here in Cincinnati. So I would love to, if anybody's interested in joining that and getting on our mailing list, you can find me at Kristie, Kristie, at ever-spark.com.
Awesome.
Go ahead and send me an email and we'll get you on the list. And we're going to get the community talking and learn from each other and build this together. So thanks for having me today, David.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have you tagged on the LinkedIn Live. So if you are watching live or after the fact as a recording, you can find Kristie. Just click on the comment section. You'll see her name and you can go to her profile. So have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Great to have you on.
Great. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you very much.
Super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. All right. Just 1 minute from our sponsors, and I'll play that here, and then we'll be back on with the next one.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
All right. So for those of you watching, we have 3 more guests coming on that have done a breakout session or are scheduled to do a breakout session today. So what's awesome about this event is they have 4 breakout sessions and you have a choice. There's 2 or 3 breakout session options. So that started right after the keynote, Andre Young, and we had 2 breakouts before lunch, and then we came back and did 2 more breakout sessions this afternoon. So after that, we have a happy hour. So again, if you are in the Cincinnati area in HR or anything related to business operations, this is definitely a really good event if you haven't been to it. It's my first time here, actually, and it's been an incredible experience to be here live doing this podcast. So just waiting on my next guest. But obviously, if you're in the market for payroll HR technology, we are very people focused. We have world-class technology, and just would love to connect with you. So what's going on, man? Come on in. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm going to mute 1 second. We'll get us set up. Right. Here we go. So we are in the 3rd afternoon session with my next guest, Todd Birch.
Yes.
Did I say that
like
right?
The tree. Like the tree.
Sweet. All right. We were just talking about his drive in from Akron, Ohio. And is this your first time at the event?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
What do you think so far?
Good.
Yeah?
Great. Yeah. I've
good.
met some good speakers. I've met some really cool people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like it. Love the hotel.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was telling people that are watching live, I do have, I think my audio is good. No one said that they can't hear me. So what I was telling them is that there's breakout sessions, and people that want to attend multiple, they're going out at the same time.
Yeah.
So you had people that came to yours, and some people missed out on yours. So really, this is more of a chance for people that came here, right?
Yeah.
That got to go to maybe Jen or Sammy, didn't get to go to you.
Right.
So we want to hear more about what you do. And it looks like you do a podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I own a digital marketing company called Evolve Marketing.
Okay.
But I am in 16 years. I celebrated this year, but I am transitioning into my second act, if you will, which is keynote speaking or breakout sessions or coaching. Corporate training program. So I thought the HR industry per se would be a great way for me to kind of get out there. So wellness programs, mental health. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I have a podcast as well, The Bolt.
The Bolt.
Can't see it. The Bolt podcast.
I don't have a t-shirt. I got a coffee mug.
Hey, you got something.
I got stuff.
I got stuff. Yeah.
It's my first time at a live conference. So,
no, this is great.
So tell me about the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast is great. It's all about personal growth, transformation, and leadership.
Okay.
So I have a variety of guests from all over the world. That's the beautiful thing about podcast. I've met so many amazing people that I would never, ever have met.
Nope.
And I became good friends with some of them. It's amazing. We're all just kind of helping each other out, right? We do a podcast swap. I'm on yours, you're on mine. You introduce me to 3 people. I introduce. It's like a cool family. That was the one thing I did not expect. Coming into the podcast space, but I'm 33 episodes in.
Wow, we're like right at the same amount too.
And
awesome.
It's interesting. I have a weekly cadence, but I just scaled back to bi-weekly. I don't know. It feels a little bit like churn and burn. And I'm not able to let it resonate. Really enjoy it and promote it. So there was no breath. Finish one, move on to the next. But some really great guests. Again, we're talking about personal transformation, personal growth. Talk a lot about mindset shifts.
Awesome.
Talk a lot about habits. So there's a lot of great nuggets on there, and leadership as well.
So what got you to start a podcast?
That's a good question. I've always wanted to.
Really?
Probably like you, right?
Yeah.
I've been researching it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then when I decided that I was going to make this shift in my life to be a keynote speaker and to coach, I just thought the podcast would be the great first way to get some reps in and to meet some great people, make some new connections. And, so here we are, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's this opportunity allows me to meet people like you live, which is even better because a lot of the people I talk to, some of these people here have been on my podcast before, so
that's cool.
They're actually several have already been on.
Are they all live?
They're all live.
Oh,
so I do them on LinkedIn, YouTube, all live. So I do it live like this. So Mondays, 2 p.m. Eastern. I typically do them not every Monday, but almost every Monday.
Okay.
So I've got people booked out till February.
Wow.
So I got
no mistakes.
No mistakes.
It's raw.
It is raw.
So that's a little different, right? That's a big difference.
It is a big difference.
Doing it live or having it recorded, being able to go back in and edit out the ums, the so's, the filler, or a mistake, something you said, you're like, oh crap.
And some people have come on that have done a podcast before, so they know about it, but some aren't. Yeah. Some of the people here, it was their first time on a podcast and they loved it, right? So they introduced me to other people. So it's just like you said, it helps you meet other people.
Right.
So let's dive into your topic for people that weren't here, that are watching live or on demand after the fact. It'll be on Spotify, Apple, Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people that weren't here,
wrong way.
Yeah,
there we
it's
go.
Kind of a little different.
All right.
So your topic in your breakout was the power of discomfort.
Yes.
The power of discomfort in small shifts.
Yes.
Fueling growth in yourself and your team.
Yes.
So how did that breakout go? What did you talk about?
It was great. Oh my God, I've received so many great pieces of feedback already, which is great.
Yeah.
It's all about embracing discomfort, and it all comes back to change. Right. We are experiencing so much change in society, in the workplace, right?
Constant.
So how do we embrace change?
Right.
And we talk about a mindset and really trying to move out of a fixed mindset into an open mindset and just being open to that. And what I talk about is tapping into your inner curiosity.
Yeah.
Remember when you were a child and you had that spark, right, of curiosity? Yeah. What if, asking the questions, turn over rocks to see what's underneath.
Yeah.
So what I believe is that we all have that curiosity. We just lose it, right? Because we start adulting. We get into careers. We get into starting a family. Next thing you know, 10, 20 years go by, and we get into this box because we've got comfortable, and we're just in Groundhog Day. We're just doing the same old, and that's just not going to cut it in today's world, right? Yeah. We really need to be working on a little bit each day, 1% better. That's all, and that's where the small shifts come in. It's just we're not trying to change the world or change ourselves in one day. It's just 1% better. And you can do that in a variety of different ways. We talk about a gratitude practice, journaling, meditation, saying no, putting up boundaries, getting time and space back, right? So reflecting, pausing, right? Just being able to take those moments to be more mindful in your everyday, and then how that impacts your work. And how you integrate with different people in your workplace. So
I always talk about versions of myself, right? Like I tell my wife, I'm on my, whatever version of myself.
Yeah, I like that.
And it changes.
I'm at 2.0.
2.0,
yeah.
And then it's like 15.0. So like, I got remarried 2 years ago, and she saw what I was like when we were dating, when we were engaged, when we were married. And like Scott McGowan was like, I was asking him about, tell me about yourself. He's like, well, I'm married to my best friend. And I was like, yeah, me too. Like, so it's fun when like, whether it's a personal relationship or, your professional career, it's like, you're not going to grow if you are always in like your comfort zone, right? Like you've got to get out there. Like I'm sure some of the people that came on here were nervous. I don't know if you're nervous.
No, I mean I'm on a podcast. I spoke today, like my nerves were there and they're gone. And that's, David, it's all about fear.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was more nervous with like the setup, the technology and stuff, because I came here this morning, and like if something wasn't working, we wouldn't be doing this live.
There's always something.
So I was ready for a surprise, and I was kind of like concerned. I wasn't like worried, but I was like, all right, everything's gonna go fine, and it's been great.
Yeah,
it's been great.
That's cool.
So what were some of the things that maybe people asked you in your breakout? Were there some questions, and how did you kind of engage with the group. Were there some questions that were asked?
No, there weren't. In fact, we didn't have time for questions.
I know. These go fast.
Well, and we were a little behind because the keynote went a little long, so I was a little rushed to get started.
There's Andre, my man. What's up, dude?
He's igniting his spark. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks. You too.
Someone asked me if you fit back here, and I was like, yeah, he did. I was like, yeah, he's a little bigger than us.
Yeah, he was great. But yeah, no questions, but we did have a couple of reflection points.
Yeah.
So we had a group sharing exercise where I asked,
is this yours?
Yes.
Okay.
I asked the audience, I said, what would you remember a time when you got out of your comfort zone, when you leaned into it?
Yeah.
And what was the growth that you experienced in that? And then we also asked them, what would your comfort zone voice say to you right now? And what would your growth mindset voice say to you back?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And then we did a reflection on small shifts, these small shifts we talked about. What would be one small shift that you're willing to commit to this week and try? And how would you hold yourself accountable? And then what would be the growth that you see from that small shift? So, and again, it all goes back to fear. We're being sabotaged. Our minds are being sabotaged all day long, every day. If we can just grab the fear, put it aside, and move more into kind of a sage mindset, right? A more positive mindset.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be more clear. We're going to have more clarity, more creativity, more calm, lead with empathy.
Oh yeah.
Right. So there's a whole host of benefits. Not easy to do, but I think people just need to hear the message.
Yeah. And I think as you were talking, I thought about just myself and, how I hold myself accountable. Some people, it's hard for them to hold themselves accountable, right? So it's like you do have to some point, you have to have people in your corner, whether it's a spouse, a colleague, a mentor, a manager, a parent, somebody to help kind of hold you accountable, right?
Yeah.
So I think mentorship and things like that. I don't have like one mentor, but like, I have an amazing wife. She's my best friend. She holds me accountable. She challenges me.
Good.
So like, it really helps it. And like you said, like when you're in discomfort, you grow the most.
Right.
So,
we just need to be able to embrace it.
Yeah.
Right? The funny thing is we all crave growth and we all crave discomfort.
Yeah.
But we're afraid, right? We get used to being comfortable and we let that fear kind of sabotage us. We just need to, and that's why we say one small shift.
Yeah.
Because if you can experience it, you get that hit of dopamine. You're like, oh, this isn't so bad after all.
Right.
And now I'm going to try something else. And it starts to compound, right?
Yep.
You start to make these shifts and now you're a whole new person. And the thing is, it spreads. It's contagious, not only to your family, but to your team, your organization, your culture. It can have a really profound effect.
Yeah.
So,
and it's celebrating the small wins. You got to celebrate the small wins, right?
You got to celebrate, man.
Whether it's going to get your best favorite dessert, for us, we have great ice cream, Graders. I would highly suggest going to Graders if you get a chance, or, going to have a glass of wine or going to your favorite restaurant or bourbon, which we can get into because our time is ended and I don't have anybody for a few minutes. So shifting topics a little bit, obviously my podcast, Speakeasy HR, I live in Kentucky. I've got bourbon wood in my wedding ring.
Oh my gosh, dude. I love
got married at a distillery. So it really is fascinating to see what the bourbon industry is about. And, I tried to look at like, when I started a podcast, I'm like, I want to make a podcast that I would watch and learn from the guests in HR and in business and different operations and challenges that people face. And so I've learned a ton from like re-listening to episodes, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So I'm like, all right, how do I take the passion of my work, the passion I have with bourbon and, the understanding of what that means to the state of Kentucky. And obviously people out of Kentucky like bourbon. Most of it leaves Kentucky, which a lot of people are like, oh, you probably get the best bourbon. Like, no, everything leaves Kentucky.
Right.
So I got to go to Ohio or somewhere else or bourbon clubs.
Yeah.
So the famous question, what's your favorite bourbon?
Oh my gosh. I knew you were going to ask that. If it's for the price, right? My favorite for the price and the quality is probably the Woodford double barrel.
Okay. All right.
You just for the or Buffalo Trace, but in Ohio we can't get it. We really can't get it unless you wait in line and do all the. I'm not doing that. I'm not that crazy. So those are my two, and I know nothing fancy, right? They're just kind of. But you know, I do like the Four Roses. The was it the mini, the smaller one? Is that the mini double barrel, maybe?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Four Roses.
Do you listen to the Pursuit podcast, the Bourbon Guys?
No. Okay. Actually, I got really heavy into it during COVID, which a lot of people did. Nothing else to do. And I've kind of moved away a little bit. I love bourbon. But I'll be honest, like, you know, a lot of the bourbon that I was getting into was 95, 100, 105, and that little shift in proof. I had to kind of check myself, you know, like, to be honest, like, you know, I'm busy. I got a lot going on, a lot of good things I'm doing in my life. I just couldn't do it. I could drink it, you know, and I'm just like, and I like it. So I had to really, so I'm going back to like finding, you know, the 180 proof out there, the Basil Hayden toast that's my new fave because it's low proof. I could drink enough of it that I can be outside with a cigar and cooking out on some steak and but so anyhow,
over
what
COVID.
about you?
During COVID, I mean, I a lot of the distilleries I went to and toured, and I'm like, you know, one day I'm gonna work at one of these distilleries. I'll be a tour guide and I'll just talk history and I'll you know what I mean?
Right?
Like
we did the Bourbon Trail 2 years ago, my wife and I.
What was your favorite distillery?
Probably Buffalo Trace. Just because of the history.
Oh yeah, the flood. Have you seen the flood lately?
No, we had a guy that had been there 40 years. So oh my gosh, he was amazing.
Is it Freddie?
I can't remember the name.
Well,
older white guy. Beard.
Yeah.
It was great. But
Freddie's a third generation employee. His dad and his grandpa. His grandpa worked with like Albert Blanton.
That might have been that might have been him. Yeah, it was incredible. But I'll tell you, Woodford's the land. At Woodford, it was just like the drive. It was immaculate. Like they really got it. We did the Angel's Envy, which for a new was really cool. So to see the modern and then to see some of the older ones.
It's there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
You could,
you know,
but it was cool just to be down in Kentucky and do that. And my wife she's not a bourbon person, but they all have kind of a frou-frou drink, if you will, you know.
They got gins, vodkas.
So we had
a
good time.
That's we're fortunate. I mean, there's a lot of places in my area in northern Kentucky, a really good vintage bourbon bar called Revival. A lot of their stuff is like from 1980, 1970 back. So I kind of like use their vibe as kind of a vintage speakeasy vibe for the podcast. So got a couple of like older stuff from them, and so it kind of.
So what's your favorite distillery tour?
Oh, favorite tour? Okay, that's easier. I'd say Maker's Mark. That's a really good.
I didn't do that one.
Maker's Mark. The Buffalo Trace Taylor tour right on the river, and
I didn't do that one.
Those are great. But I'm going in. I've been to Jim Beam. Jim Beam's coming up in July, so that'll be a good time. I'm going through Booker's. Fred No, which somehow I got to be related. We have the same last name.
Like spell the same.
I spell it the same. I pronounce it Noe. They pronounce it No.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, trying to figure out how we're related. I grew up in Michigan, so I'm not from Kentucky, right? So I'm trying to like figure out how we're connected. But so we're going down there in July, doing like a tasting with him, and it's just fun to see these like old guys like Eddie Russell's, you know, Jimmy Russell, the old Wild Turkey guys, like these generations of it. It's really fascinating.
It is interesting.
You know, you just don't see that. Obviously, wine, things like that. Gin, tequila, which I just realized last week I was out of town in Sedona, Arizona, and a restaurant owner was telling me about tequila. Tequila you can't make other than in Mexico. Is that right? Did you know about that?
I'm not a big tequila fan.
Me neither.
Never have been.
Me neither.
I'll stick to what I know, bourbon and scotch. But
it's there's a lot. I think shifting too. The bourbon boom is kind of sliding down a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. It was on a high there's so many different variations. You could spend hundreds. Wild Goose Chase to get the Eagle Rare. That would be one of my favorites. We could never have it. It's so funny. We go to restaurants in Ohio and they have it on the list. I'm like, I'm gonna ask, but I'm gonna guarantee you don't have it. Why is it on the list? Don't tease me, man.
It's usually,
I want some Eagle Rare.
It's usually pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll do a glass.
Yeah.
A pour. So
it's all good. So where can people find your podcast and your work? Obviously, you're tagged on the LinkedIn post, but where can people find you?
Yeah, they can go to toddbirch.com if you want to learn about my speaking engagements or my positive intelligence coaching, and then you can do a search for the Bolt podcast. The Bolt podcast. Yeah, and you find it on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you listen. So.
What's been your most favorite episode or guest that you've had?
Oh, that's a tough one. Live. They're all good.
They're all good.
I don't know. In different ways, right? In different ways.
Which one was maybe one that you were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had that person on? Like from a influence standpoint.
Yeah.
From somebody that's like well-known.
Yeah. I don't know. She should be well-known. Her name is Amy Wong. She's an author. She's in San Francisco.
Okay.
She's a keynote speaker, author, coach, and we just hit it off. We had an amazing conversation, and she was so helpful and shared so much with me, and we became friends.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's probably one of my favorite episodes. Just somebody on the other side, right, other side of the country, and we just hit it off like we had known each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
So that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that is fun, and like I said, I've had people come on that I've met before in person or just have heard of and have kind of followed, and so just people that give me their time and come on, and we just have a good time, and it seems like everyone that comes on just feels like it's a genuine conversation that we're just having, but we're recording and people can listen to it.
And that's the goal, right? Is to have it be kind of organic. And well, actually, I just had. Do you know John Bernanovich? So you should check out. I just had him on. I just released his episode last week. So I should have said Johnny B.
Johnny B.
He's an old friend of mine. Been a great guy. Been a great mentor for me, especially in the He's the one that told me about this conference.
Yep, he was here last year.
I should apply. So, Johnny B was on. That's one of my favorites. That's my longest one.
Yeah.
It's 78 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, which is a little long for me. I like to keep it between 45, 55.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, mine are a little bit shorter, 45 minutes to an hour. But he was on in a previous episode, and just it's funny. I've got a guy coming on in July. He's like a comedian, but he does like HR comedy.
Oh,
yeah. So
HR comedy, that's a thing.
To celebrate my 1 year anniversary, I'm like, dude, would you come on? He's in New York, and so. About 2 weeks before an episode, I released the name, the episode, the guest.
Okay, kind of tease it.
Little teaser, video, promo. So I connected to him through somebody else, and he's like, "Yeah, I would love to come on." And I booked him 2 months ago. So I'm talking to someone in January, February. I'm like, "Hey, you want to come on in July?" And they're like, "Sounds great." So we'll see if they actually come on. But look out for it, and we'll. Obviously,
HR comedy.
Right. Yeah.
I think we need that.
We do need it.
Right.
HR people are going to be busy. Like in the next 10 years, all of my guests that have come on before you and just the people that I've had on as guests, just with the way the workforce is going to change and the way that the younger generation will come in and the people retiring, there's not as many people coming into the workforce that are leaving soon. And it's like AI is going to help maybe simplify and make it more efficient for people. People aren't going to lose their jobs. Like what happened when the internet created, people were like, oh, they're going to take my job. And it's like, no, it created tons of jobs, right?
Yeah. That was my life was created from the internet.
Yeah, and so there are jobs, a lot of jobs that really haven't even like been created yet.
Right.
And it's gonna, in the next 5 years, like so many new jobs are gonna come out. So people that have gone through school during COVID that don't know what the workforce is about yet, then they're gonna come out and there's gonna be way more opportunities than there are now. So it is exciting. And I think the stuff that you're doing, just helping people continue to transform and, you know, from self-improvement, mental health, some of the things, neurodiversity, you know, Sammy Kelly talking neurodiversity. She was on my podcast, so I learned a little bit about her, and I'm like, you just wouldn't hear about that stuff, you know, in the past. Like that,
oh gosh, no. Mental health wasn't even a thing.
I didn't know much about it, you know, and shame on me. And so she's really helped me understand a little bit more. So it's like people will have to deal with that stuff, whether they want to or not. And
well,
it's
I think
really
the younger generation wants to.
Yeah,
they're open to it, right?
Yeah,
they really are.
Yeah, it's
so there's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope, but it's all change.
There's
it's
hope,
all change, and it's changing quickly, and we just need to be open to it.
Yeah, and you know, people like yourself, I think will just really help the individuals out there that will need the help. And I feel like you have a really good message just from what I've heard from you. So
just trying, man. You gotta ignite your spark. Ignite your spark. That's it. You know,
it's awesome.
We're just trying to ignite our spark. It's there.
Yeah.
We just need, maybe it's blown out. We just need to add a little kindling, curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity. It's
what
fun.
What
curiosity, even in interviews, you know, you bring that up, and it's funny because I try to, when I do interviews, because I'm involved in recruiting for payroll partners, right? So I'm like, how can I find out what people are curious about in an interview without saying, okay, I want to know about your curiosity, right? Like, ask questions that will bring out potentially their curiosity. See what questions they're asking you, right? You know, if they are if you are interviewing them and they ask you really good questions, then they are curious about the company. They're curious about your culture. They should ask about the culture, right? As Scott McGowan talks about, culture is an inside job, and you know it's really important. So if people are out there looking for jobs, you definitely should show and act like you're curious to go into a job interview, to ask them good questions, ask them who the manager is going to be, ask them what their manager style is like, you know, and if they're like, yeah, we see a lot of people get developed, they stay here, and you know, from a personal growth perspective, they really do help. If you hear that, you probably want to take the job offer if you get one, right? So
do your homework.
Do your homework.
Just spend some time.
Act like you're curious.
Right. Don't copy and paste and just throw some stuff on the wall. If you really want the job, spend the time to get to know the company and what makes them tick. Right.
Yeah. And it's a different dynamic. Like if a company is in office, right? In office, working face to face in an office setting versus remote, all over, virtual, remote. It's a different culture. It's a different mindset. It's a different approach to business. And, you know, there are people that they just want to work remote and they don't want to go into an office.
No, that's most of my employees. They just so I had to make a change.
Yeah.
We created a policy called work your way.
Yeah.
However you want to work.
I love it.
We got a great, beautiful mansion of an office. You can come to the office, you can work from home, or you could do both. You can do a hybrid situation.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't love it, to be honest. I'm old school. I'm a little bit older. I love being in person, but you know what? I didn't want to lose. I have a really great team, and that's what they wanted. So sometimes we just have to be flexible. And that's what the people want. They want the number one thing in our NPS surveys, the people and the flexibility.
Flexibility.
It's easy. So why wouldn't you give the people what they want? You know, it's just different.
It's important. It's important. The balance of work and, you know, personal life. Andre said it this morning, you know, the what did he call it? It wasn't the work-life balance. It was the, I forget what he said. It was the work.
He's still here?
I don't know. Is he? Andre. Anyways, it was the balance of your non-work life, right? Like, you know, you want to have the flexibility. I think for a lot of people to collaborate, it's like, can you collaborate better in person, virtually, both? You know, like that's where I think a lot of companies, smaller businesses or industries that really do want to collaborate in an office, in a conference room, and like think through ideas. Some people really like that, and then some people just want to work from home and collaborate that way. So it's all very different.
Right.
It's all very customized to the business, and so
just being flexible and open. Again,
flexible,
it's just open on both sides, both the employee side and the employer. Like putting yourself in the employer's shoes.
Absolutely.
I just paid for all this office space.
Yeah.
And
right.
But the employer needs to have trust. And if you don't trust your people, maybe you don't have the right people.
Very important.
So if the work's there, they're going to do the work. What if they do a little laundry while something's uploading or, in between meetings? Who cares? So that's what makes them happy, right? So
absolutely.
Anyhow, we can go on all day, man.
I know. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, brother.
Great to meet you, Todd.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I wish you the best.
Same here.
Enjoy your time here. Safe travels back, and obviously we'll keep in touch, hopefully, and this won't be the last time we talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we could do a real podcast.
Absolutely.
Or if I come down to Kentucky to do another tour,
I will be your tour guide. I will be your tour guide.
Awesome.
Thanks, bud. All right, we have 2 more interviews with our guest speakers today. So my next one has been on Speakeasy HR already. So she is the 3rd returning guest here today that have already been part of a previous episode. So Kathleen Snyder with Clark Schaefer Strategic HR is back, and she had a breakout session, and that was this
Elevating performance through skill development.
Look at that. I got it right there.
There you go. Look how good you are.
Yeah. So I already know a little bit about you, which is great. We're still going to play the envelope icebreaker game.
Okay.
Because that's what everybody does on Speakeasy HR. But for those that are not here, as I've said before, we had 4 breakout sessions. Every breakout session, you had the chance to go to several breakout sessions. So everybody here hasn't had the chance to listen to everybody's presentation.
Right.
So with this live, people that aren't here physically can hear from the speakers, but also people that are here attending that maybe didn't get to go to yours. I want them to hear about your topic and what you brought to the breakout session. So we're going to get into that. And obviously I want to get to the envelope icebreaker game. So, whoops. Hopefully the audio is still good. I haven't heard anybody say different, but hopefully everything is good. The green circle's on.
That's,
so,
as long as the green circle is happy.
Yeah, it's going on. It's going up.
Okay.
So let's get to the envelope icebreakers,
No, I haven't the slightest idea.
Okay.
That was months ago, David.
I know. I don't remember what I did last week. Well, I do. I was out of town on vacation. Okay, 1 through 15.
Okay. 8.
8. What do you got in there?
What am I doing? There's 2? Does that make sense? There's hopefully. 1. Okay. What's my favorite TV show? Our house is, I feel like we're not necessarily normal. So let me just say, we do not stream. We are not, I just don't think to. We are old school. I know. See, yeah. I told you, we are not normal. We are old school.
Okay.
So if, quite frankly, during about August through February, if there's an NFL game on, we're there. That's,
okay.
NFL Sunday ticket, watch them all weekend.
Yeah.
So college, I'm a big football person. So if that's available, outside of that, we seem to watch a lot of like vet shows of veterinary clinics and stuff and the animal or zoo shows.
Okay.
We do a fair amount of home reno.
Okay.
So, because we built a house, it's been about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
So just going through that whole process of decor and just,
Okay.
So, but as much as anything, those are kind of playing in the background while we're doing something else. We're just not huge.
Yeah.
Everybody, what show are you streaming and all that? I'm like, I got nothing. I have a list that people tell me I should watch.
Yeah.
But
it's all good. I mean, I think
I feel like I failed the icebreaker.
You're fine.
Move her off of here.
It's fun to hear more about the guests. I don't really have a problem with it. You know what I mean?
We just really don't.
I don't. Yeah. I try to find things other than watching TV.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's nice to just kind of watch something mindless. You know what I mean? So what's your favorite football team?
I'm going to say the Bills.
The Buffalo Bills.
The Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
We have a little bit of a connection. My daughter is an athletic trainer, and she did a couple of internships with them. So she knows some of the players and stuff. And so that little bit of that connection, she knows the organization. So that makes it kind of fun.
That's awesome.
I try really hard to root for the Bengals. They don't always make it easy, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping the Bills had a good draft, and this is finally their year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I grew up in Michigan, moved here for college, kind of understood what NFL football was about, watching the Bengals play, and they were exciting, maybe more in the last few years.
Yeah.
But if they lose, it doesn't ruin my Sunday.
Right.
No,
it doesn't ruin my Sunday. But I mean, it's Buffalo. We have learned is just Buffalo's a very blue collar town.
Yeah.
There are people, the Bills Mafia is passionate.
Oh, yeah.
The players many of the players are very involved in the community. Josh Allen really is as good, as good a person as people say he is. So I want to know a little bit about the players and the personal side of it. And then I kind of will judge.
Yeah. That's awesome. So for people that don't know you, Kathleen, if you want to just kind of explain your background in HR, how you got into it. You've been doing it for quite some time.
Yeah. God, I've been in HR now. It's 25 years now, which is a little scary.
Okay.
So I'm kind of all things, generalist, kind of soup to nuts stuff. I also do a lot of training. Yeah. So here in more recent years, probably the last 3 or 4 years, I've been very focused on training and development. And now I'm been with Clark Schaefer. Well, I've been with strategic HR. And now Clark Schaefer Strategic HR, I had 15 years in October. And now I am Director of Training Development for us. So that's definitely one of my passions is just to help work with leaders, employees, whatever, give them the tools they need to be successful.
Yeah. And so your breakout session was elevating performance through targeted skill development.
Yeah.
So walk us through that. What did you talk about for people that weren't able to attend?
Well, so what we are seeing with clients and what we're hearing, and I read a lot, and just what you're seeing nationally, is that organizations are having a hard time finding talent that has the skills they need. They may get a lot of applications, but they don't have the skills they need. And things like that. So organizations are trying to figure that out. And then you also have organizations, I mean, let's face it, we're a little uncertain with the economy right now. I actually was reading 3 articles earlier today of organizations kind of pulling back. That doesn't necessarily mean the need goes away. And so it's how do we address that it is essentially a skills gap.
Right.
And so we walked through why we need to do that. We walked through there's a number of studies. If you want a really good read, the World Economic Forum for 2025 released their futures of work. Really, really good data. I pulled some of that data and stuff in, but of what they're expecting from skills that are needed in the future. And you know what? The vast majority of them have nothing to do with technical software platform, that kind of stuff. It's being able to critical thinking. It's being able to evaluate a situation and determine next steps. It's all of those kind of things that is a big part of it. And then we kind of talked through, how do you know what you have? And starting with, where are you looking to go? What's your strategic plan? What are you looking to do this year, 3 years, 5 years? Is part of that an expansion where you need, maybe you're starting a new product line that you need to, do we have the people that have the skills, and evaluating where are we going? And what do we need to get there? And then what do we have? And figuring that out along the way, and kind of being able to evaluate the people we have, getting input from everybody, from employers, team leads, middle managers, all up and down. What do we have? What do we need? And then putting an action plan together to get there.
What questions, I've asked some of the other speakers, what questions were asked in the breakout? Do you remember any of the questions?
Some of them were about there were a couple about as somebody was promoted, and they're not succeeding in the role. And they tried to fill a need by promoting internally, and that because they were good at their job, which we still hear happens. We know that happens. And how this person's not being successful, and it's like, okay, what can we do? They want the role? Because sometimes not everybody who gets promoted actually wanted the role.
They want the money.
They want the money, or they just feel, oh well, that's the next logical step, I guess. But okay, so how is there development? Is there coaching? Is there training? Things we can do to help get them there? That was one of the things that was happening. We had somebody asked a question that their company is kind of doing a significant pivot to incorporate AI into their day-to-day and what they're doing, and just things to look at from that perspective.
Interesting.
There was a couple of comments that their people lack the analytical thinking or the critical thinking, and how do we get them there? And we had a number of requests from clients on that, and we have a session that we do on empowering your employees and if you can empower your employees to be able to handle it, then that's going to free the leader up to do what leaders are supposed to do, be more strategic, address bigger picture and things. But you can't just hand that off. And so it's a process of, it's almost like a change of mindset for the leader. Instead of just providing the answer, employee comes up, asks you a question, you provide the answer. That's the easy way, but that's not really, you can do that all day long. It's a mindset of, well, let's lead the employee there so they can get there on their own. And it's through asking the questions, who, what, where, when, why, how. Well, what do you think? Where do you think you need to go from here? Well, why do you think that is? Getting them also to identify the real problem, because sometimes they come with a symptom or they come with an outcome, but it's not really the real problem. So we kind of go through that step. That came up a couple times. A number of people were saying that's a challenge that they have.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of companies don't act in a proactive manner, and now they're in a reactive phase, so they have to do something, but they don't want to invest the time in it before that happens. So I guess for people listening to this live or on demand, as you're looking into the future of, and you've talked a little bit about it, but from their organization and how to strategically help the team develop as a whole with career development and retention strategies, things like that. What would be a couple of things that they should really focus on, or just things that they should think about initially?
I think part of it is getting employees' input, and also I'm a big advocate, and I talked about this a lot. Any session I've ever done, somebody's heard this from me, of making sure your employees understand the big picture and how what they do contributes to that and impacts that, because then they can be a much more active participant in that conversation.
Absolutely.
But then part of it is to talk to your employees about their interests. What might they be interested in learning? That's a good place to start, because you don't want to move somebody and start training them into another position when they have no interest in that. So absolutely. And people, when they understand the bigger picture in the company, they know, oh, they do this over here. You know what? That's always been kind of interesting to me. And then you can start to go that route. And also, I guess another takeaway is a lot of organizations, as they're going through this process, focus on the technical skills. We need to have somebody learn this new software. We need to have somebody learn data analytics. We need to have somebody learn, this. And don't get me wrong, those have merit, but that shouldn't be all you're looking at. Because it's that, and what came up more than anything in the session was analytical thinking and critical thinking. Okay, I've got the knowledge, but can I connect A to B to C and get there?
It's very fascinating, but it's very true, and it's in that World Economic Forum. I read some of it, and I've been at different events, and they talked about it. So if you haven't read it,
it's a good read. You can download it. And I don't think I've gotten through the whole thing because it is quite lengthy. But there's a lot of good information of just the future of work and what they're expecting.
Well, thanks for your time.
Oh, well, thanks.
This has been great.
People are winning behind us.
I know. I don't know if our microphones are catching it, but they're noise canceling, so I don't think they even know that anything's going on. But yeah, there's some raffles going on behind us. So where can people find out about Clark Schaefer, Strategic HR?
Go to strategichrink.com, or you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, Kathleen Snyder, Kathleen with a C.
Kathleen with a C, and she is tagged in the posts with the event. So if you are listening on demand on Spotify, on Apple, Amazon, go out there and just evaluate what they offer. They're an amazing organization locally in Cincinnati, but they work all over.
Yeah, we work all over.
All over. Doesn't matter where you are.
Yep.
So, thanks for your time.
Thank you. It was great to see you again.
Yeah. And I think we have one of your colleagues coming on last.
Yes, you get Becky next, and she just did an awesome session on workplace stability.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So they're doing door prizes right now. So we're going to take 1 minute. We're going to listen to a couple of messages from our sponsor. So we'll be back in a minute once they get done with the raffles. And then we'll be finished with our last guest. So 1 second.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
Okay, we got one more door prize, the best one, the last one, which is from Payroll Partners. So we'll hear what Daryl decides to give away here, which I think was an Amazon gift card and some Payroll Partners swag. So we'll see. Oh, there we go. Payroll Partners. All right, there we go. Very cool. All right. So we are at our last interview for the day with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. So I am David Noe, and I have an awesome guest with me. She has not been on Speakeasy HR yet, but I am glad to have her on here. And she was one of the guest speakers in the breakout session. So again, this event had 4 sessions where you could pick and choose where you go. And so not everybody got a chance to hear Becky's presentation, which was on civility in the workplace, which is a really hot topic in my opinion. And I'm really glad that she brought that here today. So welcome to Speakeasy HR.
Thank you, David. Yeah. I enjoy working with David very much. We see each other at a lot of events and presentations, and so I always enjoy them.
Yeah.
Great perspective.
Yeah. And I always learn when I talk to people like you, and so the people that have been here or that aren't here, you know, this is a chance for people to hear, you know, what the topics were and what, you know, the background is with the different guests. So it's been great. You're the 10th on today.
So everybody's tired of all of us by now.
Everyone's ready for happy hour and you know, all that to start. So it's still a really good turnout. So we had over 200 today. Was this your first time here?
No. I have been a participant many times in the past, but this is the first time I've presented. So I was a little nervous, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, so a lot of these people I feel like have been here before. This is my first time here, obviously doing this at a live event. Usually I'm just virtual on LinkedIn and YouTube. So being able to come to an event and see people, familiar faces and people that I know and work with, and you know, just get a chance to hear about their topics and what they brought. So you have not played the envelope icebreaker game yet, which is part of Speakeasy HR. So we're going to play that. So pick a number between 1 through 15. Think about it in your head. And I'm going to play this little quick window. 470, 800. I think it played. I don't know. I can't tell. These things sometimes don't always go right. So 1 through 15.
3.
3. All right. What do we have?
So is this a question that I'm going to be asked?
This is an icebreaker question that you have to answer, basically.
Okay.
Okay.
What was your first job that you earned a paycheck with taxes deducted? I worked at Kings Island, and not only did they deduct taxes, but they also held back, because it was a minimum wage job, but they held back 25 cents for every hour that I worked, and I only made like $3.35 at the time, so I'm maybe dating myself. And that was saved for the year-end bonus. So my paycheck was pretty thin.
That's awesome.
But yes, you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, where's it going?
All right, they're giving away more stuff. A $500 gift card. Someone just won, so hopefully we're not too loud. So how long have you been in HR, and what got you into HR? Because I always try to ask that for people that are new.
Right. I'll go back a little further than that. I graduated from college in the late 80s.
Okay.
I went to work for a big 8 accounting firm at the time. Now it's more referred to as Big 4.
Okay.
In the consulting division, I was an IT major.
Okay.
And I was doing system programming. I was going to be an IT consultant.
Okay.
And I did that for about 4 or 5 years and then was traveling too much. Hence, I went into HR. And so that was more early 90s and started doing a lot of recruiting and staffing and training. Those were the 3 things because most everything else was handled centrally out of the Chicago office. So I didn't get into payroll, did not get into benefits, didn't get into time reporting, things like that.
Yeah.
But the recruiting, staffing, and training, loved it, loved relating to people. It was a job I had done and went from there.
Yeah. And still a lot of that stuff is important today, staffing, training, recruiting. It's just an ongoing, ever-changing piece of the workplace, and companies need it. They need to have a good strategy in place. So everybody here that talked and had really good topics, it's all very important. So so when you had your breakout session about civility in the workplace, what was some of the kind of talking points that you had with the audience that came?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's becoming a hot topic. And that's because, especially after COVID, people coming back to the workplace, some of the civility is slipping. So, and some folks have just not been in a professional office and don't necessarily know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So generational gaps is certainly a concern, but there's a whole lot of other reasons.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to respect for one another.
Yeah.
How do we treat each other? And so in the session, we talked a lot about ways to communicate how to do that.
Yeah. And it sounds so easy, right? Like it sounds so easy, and for a lot of people, they just either overcomplicate it, they kind of forget the basics, and respect, empathy, clear communication. There's just some of those basics that newer managers struggle with, right? Seasoned managers might be just stuck in their ways, and I think a lot of people, when I interview people, and I brought it up, it's like, the person, that's being interviewed, they need to have good questions. And I always ask people, like, why are you not asking that company about the manager that's going to be managing me? Like, what's their style? What's their manager style like? Because obviously, if I love the brand of Payroll Partners or Clark Schaefer Strategic HR, I love the brand, I love the company, but like, who's going to manage me every day?
And that's going to drive your entire experience.
Exactly. Your experience will be different than mine. My boss now, Amy, you're awesome, by the way. She's out of town.
Plug for Patty too.
How about that? Yeah, absolutely. So we have really good bosses. We have people that we work well together with, and a lot of people don't have that. So they leave the company because of how they're managed. So it just really comes down to how can people really take that and use it in their recruiting strategy, because.
But we also covered how people treat one another. So it might be peer to peer.
Exactly.
And how can you help people understand to look at somebody else's perspective, listen to what they have to say, and set that as an expectation.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do. And it's really about kind of moving the needle on the culture.
Right.
And a culture of respect, which might be an easy way to say it. But again, it's easy to say, it's much harder to do.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it starts from the top. And I've asked other guests about challenging situations, but an opportunity for somebody in an HR position to try to lead that change, and they can only do so much. You got to have the leadership and the managers and the owners to really buy into that, because then it feels like it'll be a lot easier. So you're kind of going against the grain versus everybody going with the same trajectory. So that's really important too.
Yeah, that's why in the session we talked a lot about the research.
Yeah.
So that the HR leaders could use that with their leadership to talk about the impact of not paying attention to things like this would have, and really how severe the situation is across the country.
Yeah.
Because there's some measures that are out there where we can really look at how is civility overall,
yeah.
and then you can kind of take a look at your own workplace and realize you want to do something about it because it's contagious.
Absolutely.
If things start to people are not treating each other well,
yeah.
it's not going to stop probably until it's been communicated that that's not okay.
Yeah. What are some of the hot topic when it comes to the work that you're doing right now? You know, what are some of the big on-demand, you know, topics that you're hearing?
Yeah, the big things I'm hearing about, like kind of away from some of these cultural things, compensation. Compensation is a big one. We're getting a lot of clients who are asking for more benchmarking data because compensation's been all over the map.
Yeah.
We're also getting clients asking us for more of a system because they've gotten into a situation where they've had to offer higher salaries or they've had to give higher increases, and now all the folks aren't aligned very well. And how can we have a framework that we can kind of get everything back into a structure that makes sense so that we can drive towards more equity in the compensation?
Yeah, it's I think the next 5 years and beyond, just the way the workforce is going to be, the different generations together working, people retiring, entering the workforce, you know, people in HR, people that are here, you know, in your positions, and technology with payroll partners. I mean, it's going to play a big role in how companies are successful or trying to keep up with their competitors and trying to offer a good workplace and an environment for people that want to come to work for them. So, so where can, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say return to work is a big one too. It continues to be, but I'm sure a lot of people have talked about that, so we don't have to go into that.
No.
They can find us at strategicHRinc.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, Becky Foster, and I would love to connect with you and talk a little bit more about HR. Love to geek out on it. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, she's tagged on the live here. So if you go to LinkedIn and are watching it on demand or live, you can go in the comment section and you can find her name along with everybody else that was on Speakeasy HR today. So it was a lot of fun to have you and everybody else. Thanks for being on. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your time here. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks.
This has been a lot of fun. So tune in for next episodes of regular Speakeasy HR. So go to speakeasyhr.com. You can find all that information out there on speakeasyhr.com. I think I had something with the ticker. So yeah, if you aren't following the podcasts or the blog, you can go out there and find more information. So hope everyone has a great day. You missed out if you weren't here. So maybe next year you decide to come back to the HR Collaborative. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you later.
I kept touching my hair.